Hello, and welcome to our third episode of Film Fascination. Today, we're going to be talking about a recent film that I'm sure everyone has either seen or heard of, which is Solo, a Star Wars story. I am Nick, and I'm joined by my friend Jacob.
Bonjour. No,
Hello.
that was too wanky. I'm just gonna say hello.
Well, before we start talking about Solo, what do you think of Star Wars? Are you a Star Wars fan, Jacob?
I've got nothing against Star Wars, but I've got nothing going for it either. I'm not a fan or a hater. I just recognize, oh look, it's a series of movies, and I am very unopinionated about Star Wars. I don't analyze it or anything like that. But how about you, Nick? Are you a Star Wars fan?
Look, I thought the original trilogy is really good, but I would not call myself a Star Wars fan or a Star Wars buff. So I wasn't super like, oh my god, it's a new Star Wars spin off about Han Solo. Wow, so exciting. I was just like, there's so much Star Wars coming out now,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know.
Especially because the previous Star Wars movie only came out like 5 months ago.
Yeah, they're coming out really
Quick.
close together, so it's definitely like massive Star Wars fatigue.
To be honest, the one reason I was excited for the movie was because of Christopher Miller and Phil Lord, who were fired. So that was disappointing to me. And I was excited because of the actor who plays Han Solo, Alden. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm just going to make a noise. Erkenhag. That's probably not it. I really liked him in Hail Caesar, the Coen Brothers movie from 2016, so I was really interested to see his take. And also the one and only Donald Glover playing Lando Calrissian. I love Donald Glover, so
My expectations were very, very low. I had like no expectations to
yeah.
start with.
Yeah, same here. Mainly because I saw it, about a week after release, and I saw a lot of reports in the news like, "Oh, it's a massive flop." Oh, and when I went, the theater was packed. So I don't know why it got less ticket sales.
Yeah, there were a lot of people in my cinema as well. Yeah, I saw people saying that it flopped as well, and I saw very mixed reviews. So I'll just say I was pleasantly surprised at
As
this film.
as was I. It was a very pleasant experience.
Yeah, look, I found it entertaining. It is not without its flaws, but I didn't find myself hating it or bored to death, which I thought I might have been. But I walked out like, yeah, it was pretty entertaining. It was defied my expectations, although I had none to start with, so yeah. Now, our producer and monitor Ethan just brought up something very interesting that we'll like to discuss before we get into this. A lot of people who enjoys like The Last Jedi and the newer Star Wars seems to not like this film as much, and the ones who didn't like those films like this one a lot more. I think that's for a very good reason, and I think it's because this film did not get into the whole Jedi and actual Star Wars.
Skywalker thing.
Yeah,
And I actually enjoyed that.
it was a really pleasant relief getting into like the specific like crime underbelly of the Star Wars universe without having, the Empire versus the Rebellion and the Jedi, and it was very laid back, it was very subtle with those kinds of elements, and it really focused on a small part of the universe, which is why if you went in expecting like an actual massive Star Wars film with all those elements, you might be disappointed. But at the same time, if you were kind of tired of that, this is a nice relief while still having those elements of the Star Wars universe that still make it an enjoyable science fiction.
Yeah.
In saying that, I thought a lot of parts of this film were quite bland and quite slow and repetitive. There was like heaps of action going on, which was just,
Noise.
yeah, it just became pretty much wallpaper. And it became very, very tiresome. And you're like, oh, more action.
I
Yeah.
I also thought that characters died too quickly before you could become like emotionally invested in them.
Yeah.
So, like in the beginning of the movie, two characters die, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I wanted to get to know them better, and you kind of you just feel disappointed. You don't feel like it's not like a Game of Thrones death, you know what I mean? But you're like, oh, that really hurt me. It's just kind of like, hey, wait a minute, they died pretty quickly, well, all right, I'll just move on to the next guy.
Yeah, there was a pretty big lack of any character development or character investment in this film. And I think that's one of its biggest flaws is the fact that you don't really care about these characters.
Mm.
It really
Except
did.
for Han Solo and
Yeah, it really does just seem like a really well-made fan fiction of Han Solo's background.
Yeah.
And it does a very good job of that, but it comes with a lack of character development, and it's pretty much just a retelling of a series of events. Especially since, the main character, Han Solo, he doesn't really develop, he doesn't really grow as a character. He just sort of starts off as Han Solo. And he
Oh,
ends as Han Solo, but a little bit cooler.
I think that's all the character development you can really get from this movie. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, I mean, what could you expect from a Han Solo origin story other than he's cool. Like he's always gonna be cool.
Yeah, it was kind of doomed from the start having a bit of a story for him. Especially since the main character, I liked him as well. I was pleasantly surprised by the actor's performance, whose name I also can't pronounce, which is kind of funny since I have a weird foreign name as well. But yeah, I was surprised by him. I think he did a really good job, but he didn't quite have the charm of Harrison Ford in the original trilogy, which nobody has these days, so
Oh,
that's not a
oh,
problem.
I would have to politely disagree. I thought he was very charming.
I thought he was very charming, but yeah, not quite at Harrison Ford
Oh no,
level. But
I think he got to that height.
oh, really?
Yeah,
No, that's good. Yeah.
yeah. Just I don't know. Maybe it's just left over from Hail Caesar because he was very good in that. What about Woody Harrelson? What did you think of Woody Harrelson?
He was Woody Harrelson. I couldn't really
I love
get
Woody
out of
Harrelson.
that. I do love him as well, but
He's a treasure.
he is, and
What did you think
yeah.
of Amelia Clarke? Did you think there was much chemistry between the two?
I thought she was fine. In terms of chemistry, I think it could have been a bit stronger.
Yeah, I read somewhere that there was like no chemistry between the two.
Yeah, I think they were okay together, but it definitely could have been a lot stronger.
Yeah,
They all did a fine job individually, but I was thinking like casting could have been pushed a bit further with this. I feel like it was almost there, but it was just a little bit off. And that probably came from the whole switching the directors and recuts.
yeah,
Like, you can sort of see afterwards, like, feel this other film coming through, and then it's been like,
snuffed.
it's been turned into something else. And probably a lot of the chemistry between these characters were suffering because of that.
Yeah,
So I suspect that's where that came from. Although it didn't destroy the film for me.
yeah,
It did bring it down a level, this ensemble not really working together and these characters not developing as far as they could have been. It was still entertaining, and it didn't take me out of the experience.
I was also surprised because the movie was a little over 2 hours long, and it didn't really feel like that for me. I thought it went on at a very nice, quick pace.
Yeah, I thought it was fine as well. It was a little bit too long, but I mean most massive films these days are.
Mm-hmm.
But I was pretty happy with it. It was quite repetitive, like I said, with the action, so I think some of the action could have been cut down a lot or replaced with more development. There were these really cool scenes in it where the characters were really developing through their actions and there was clever stuff going on. Yeah, I really enjoyed the climax where Han Solo and Kira try and like trick the guy with cool scars.
Who was in Avengers?
Yes, he
Paul
was.
Bettany.
Yeah, it's the one. And they just kept like flipping the situation over and
Yeah.
over. I really enjoyed that because that was really
All these twists and turns.
yeah, and that was like a tense moment and there was action going on as well with like this cutting to another fight scene and coming back to this. I wish there was more stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if there was more stuff like that in the action scenes themselves, it would have been a lot more engaging and I would have cared a lot more. So that's definitely something they really should have tightened up. I think another big problem was, for me, the comedy was really off. It did just feel kind of awkward when there were all these jokes happening, and I was like, I'm not laughing, and I don't really care. So
Yeah.
how about we get rid of the jokes and put in dialogue that, you know, serves the characters and serves the story more? Because at some times I was like, okay, that's fine. It was good making it lighthearted, but there was definitely a lot of points where it should have been brought down.
I have to politely disagree. I do recognize that because I think that was a lot of leftover material from Lord and Miller when they were
Yeah, for
directors.
sure. Yeah.
But there were some lines that really stood out to me, like when there was the fire in the Millennium Falcon, and I think it's Kira or somebody takes one of Lando's capes.
Yeah, that was nice. Like those little moments littered throughout are good because it makes it lighthearted, and it is set in the seedy underbelly of going on the Star Wars universe. And like after watching this, I did actually think the Star Wars universe would be a shitty, terrible place to live.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's good that they put those things in.
they
It,
made it obvious.
yeah, it needed a bit more focus and control of those as well. Oh, and just one last point before we have a look at what other people are saying and see if there's anything else we forgot. I would like to point out that the cinematography really annoyed me.
Really,
Yeah,
I quite liked it.
I thought some of it was okay, but because we don't really talk about film like
The film form.
yeah, we don't talk about things like cinematography, but there were some moments where I just thought the cinematography could have been improved a lot.
No.
Like there was really weird uses of handheld camera. Like there was a scene towards the end where Solo and Kira were just having a conversation and the camera's like jumping around everywhere and like moving around and Han Solo's face keeps getting cut off and I'm like, holy shit, just use a tripod. Like how hard is it to do this?
No, I really liked it. There was oh yeah, the sequence at the beginning where Chewie and Han Solo are trying to escape from the cave or whatever and get onto the ship. I really liked the use
Yeah, that
of
was nice and they're using like framing really well
yeah.
and stuff like that. But there were some moments where I just felt drab and kind of
And
uninspired, but yeah, those moments of handheld camera and there was some awkward like cuts between scenes. Yeah, I think it could have been pushed a bit further.
because it's the same DOP as Arrival with Amy
Ah,
Adams. That was an excellent movie.
that doesn't surprise me. All right, well, I just had a look at what other people are saying to see if there's anything
But
we forgot.
before you do, I'm just
Yes,
gonna rudely interrupt you as a patriarchal man.
go on. So
Inter-
topical with this
Ye-
film.
Oh yeah. One thing I did like is at the beginning it's Han and Kira driving through on that speeder, and there's like a small gap that they had to go on an angle to drive through, and they're like, you're not gonna make it." And he's like, "No, I'll make it." And he gets through it, and you think, "Oh yeah, they're gonna make it." And then at the final like last bit, they are trapped.
Yeah,
I love that.
that was nice. And it was cool how, you know, it got reflected later on when they're in the Kessel Run and they're
Yeah.
gonna get through. I really liked that, the flying through the Kessel Run thing. I thought that was really cool. That was one of the nice action scenes that I wish they built up to that a bit more with less
Yeah.
action starting off because it really would have made it have more impact than it did. But yeah, I enjoy that sequence a lot. Um, you know, flying through and they like turn on the light and the eye appears and they're like, ah! That was
Yeah.
great. That was really good. So yeah, I had a look at what people are saying. And it looks like a lot of people pretty much agree with what we said.
Yeah.
That it's entertaining, although it's pretty bland sometimes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing
Yeah.
right with it either.
There's not a lot of substance, not a lot of big surprises or amazing things happening. It's pretty much a decent origin story that we kind of expect.
Oh yeah, we should probably talk about Chewbacca, who I almost called Chucky for a second.
Okay.
Chucky.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm glad I didn't do that. What'd you think of him?
Thought it was fun. I liked when he appeared and they had that, you know, scuffle,
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
and he speaks Wookiee,
And he speaks Wookiee, that was kind of silly, but
and they
Kinda
subtitled
funny.
it.
they subtitled it.
Yeah, they've never. They
Oh
never,
yeah, that's right. They subtitled some of it and then later on they didn't. And
Yeah,
I was like, did they forget? No, that's intentional.
yeah.
Yeah, what did you think of Chucky?
Chucky. It was like, yep, there's Chucky.
There he is.
Yep, and now they're best friends, and that's
Yeah.
nice.
It was kind of funny.
But-
Ethan mentioned it before that it was kind of weird having the super social activist robot and then
Yeah.
also Chewie like trying to save his kind from the spice mines. It was
Yeah.
kind of awkward having both of those things like happening at the same time.
Yeah,
Now-
I did love that character though. Her name is L3.
I thought she was cool.
Yeah.
Nice little like comedy relief for that moment, but
Yeah.
also a
She-
nice character. I liked her.
She definitely died too quickly. If that-
Yeah, I didn't mind her dying. It was expected.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it wasn't a surprise, but it was still like enjoyable enough. It would have been nice to have a bit more of her because I thought she was enjoyable. As someone who like can't stand, you know, social justice warriors, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it was just self-aware enough that it was
Mm.
funny.
Yeah. But it was also very sincere.
Yes.
I think the real shame is that these days, you know, when a Star Wars movie used to come out, it used to be a special thing. It'd be like, oh, new Star Wars movie. new
Yeah,
Star
now
Wars
it's just like, here you go.
No,
Here it is.
another Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Same with like this is me. I've been thinking about this the last few days, but when it comes to films and TVs, it's definitely turned to quantity over quality, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
It's, things are no longer as special as they used to be. It used to be like, there used to be a really good show and it was very special and you'd love it and you'd watch every episode. And now these days, there's like a billion great shows out there that you have to watch. And there's a billion great movies out there, and there's so much on Netflix, and Netflix is dropping a movie like every week, and you're like,
Yeah, it's insane. It's this weird sort of blend at the moment of, like you said, quantity over quality, but then at the same time, there's so many like amazing filmmakers making these things
yeah,
that there's heaps of quality coming out.
yeah, but you're missing it because it's just a tsunami.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. It's definitely not as a spectacle like it used to be. Han Solo is not, as in this movie, isn't gonna be like a Star Wars film. It's just sort of happened and it's done and it's
yeah.
over and it's just gonna be
It's like,
swept away.
let's
Yeah.
move on to the next one.
In a
And this,
month's time, no one's gonna be talking about it
yeah,
anymore.
it's like, let's do Boba Fett now. And it's like, oh, cool. Yep, now it's Boba Fett.
Pretty much.
And now they're gonna do a Jabba the Hutt reality show where he's on like Biggest Loser or something.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then there's gonna be like a whole Making a Murder documentary about whether or not Han shot first.
So what are your final thoughts on Solo, a Star Wars story?
It's aight.
It's alright.
It's fine. It's good. It's nothing wrong with it. I enjoyed it.
I would probably say see it if you're interested, but there's not really any substance and you won't really get anything out of it.
Yeah.
If you're expecting something of the substance of the original trilogy, or even these newer sequels that we've been seeing, you'll be disappointed because it's, like I said, it's pretty much a really well-made fan fiction, but you don't learn anything new. It's almost like a recreation of like a Wikipedia article about Han Solo, with some cool action sequences thrown in as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just finding it's hard for me to say things about this movie because it's just so, yeah.
See it if you want.
Like, it's not as bad as people have been saying it is, and I don't know why it's a flop.
In terms of Star Wars prequels, it's better than all the prequels that have been done so far. It was much, much better than, what was it, Rogue One.
Oh, I really enjoyed Rogue One.
I can't remember any of it. That was super boring to me. But this one's a lot better than that, in
Spoiler
my
alert
opinion.
for Rogue One, but I just loved how they just killed everyone off at the end.
That was nice. That was a really nice thing.
Yeah.
I liked that. I liked that ending. But I think this one was more enjoyable than Rogue One. Probably because, like I said, this is very toned back with the Empire and war and the Jedi stuff. So this was a nice relief. So
Yeah.
yes, I'd recommend it. Anyway, so you're going to
Europe.
for the
About
next
5 weeks, 6
5
weeks.
weeks. Yeah. So next review will probably be me and somebody else until you get back.
Probably David Stratton
Yeah.
or Margaret Pomerantz. We're trying to get
Yeah.
them in.
Yeah, for sure. We've just been not
Yeah.
responding to our email.
Yeah, we tried to bring back Roger Ebert, but that proved hard.
Yeah.
We gave that up.
All right.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. If I die in a car crash, or a
If
plane
your plane
crash,
crashes, then goodbye to Jacob.
it was nice knowing you all.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye, guys.
Bye.